Are you happy with the new series, Chris?
It doesn't seem to have much to it. It hasn't improved that much since it went off the air. It could have been a lot better. It could have been slightly better written, especially the last story.
This is where the distress signal was coming from. Whatever sent that distress signal, it's been dead for a while. Whoa. It's BBC's Doctor Who. Okay, that's enough of that. I recently caught up on Doctor Who. The last episode that I watched was the Series 11 finale in 2019. I'd grown increasingly disappointed with the Moffat era, and I was incredibly delighted when the first episode of Series 11 was actually good. Unfortunately, it was just all downhill from there. There is a lot that I want to say about the state of the show at the moment with the Moffat and then the Chibnall era of the show. I've always loved Doctor Who. I really started to dislike it around the mid-season finale of season 6, and it just never really got back to where it was after that, which was disappointing because Doctor Who was my favorite show. When I was a kid, I would always watch and rewatch the E-Space trilogy with Tom Baker's Fourth Doctor, and I absolutely loved them. Then in the early 2000s, the ABC announced that they were going to start at the first episode of Doctor Who and go right to the end of Doctor Who with all of the classic episodes, and I was there for that. I loved every single moment of it. And then in 2005, right after one of the episodes of Classic Who, there was a trailer for the 2005 reboot of Doctor Who, and I was just over the world. I remember telling Mum, hey, there's a new series of Doctor Who, and she said point blank, no, I don't think that that's true. And I was just, it was a great time to be a kid. For me, at least, anyway. I was having a blast. I loved this show. It would seem that most Doctor Who fans sort of are on the same page when it comes to the Moffat and Chibnall eras of the show. It goes from bad to worse, and obviously I agree with everything sort of going on, because here I am making this video. Oh shit, before I forget, I need to do my intro face. I think it's a good point to sort of mention that I scripted all of this, which is why I've got my phone out. I wrote a very, very long script, but I can't, I look at it and then I forget what I've written. So I'm probably going to go off script a little bit here, which is terrific. So Russell T Davies is coming back as showrunner, and the 60th anniversary is coming up. So in preparation for the 60th anniversary, I binge watched all of series 12, season 12. I am switching between the two because the BBC always refers to them as series, but every TV show is always referred to as a season. It's doing my head in. So I watched all of season 12, Season 13, aka Flux, and the most recent special episodes all ready to catch up for the 60th anniversary, which I found out after I binge watched everything that the 60th anniversary doesn't come out until next year and not on New Year's Day, like I for some reason thought that it would. It's terrific, good stuff. Definitely don't feel like I wasted my time. I watched all of the Flux series and the specials in one single day. I finished watching the Regeneration episode at about 3 in the morning, and, you know, I just felt a little bit let down. It wasn't great. I enjoyed Series 12 more than Series 11, I think. Like, it was pretty good. But overall, after watching Flux, it was sort of, it wasn't great. I haven't seen Chris Chibnall's other show, Broadchurch. Apparently it's really, really good, and I was hoping that with a single storyline series of Doctor Who, it would lend more to his sort of writing style, but it didn't. It was way too over the top, and it sort of it was just trying to be an episodic series of Doctor Who, but also really poorly implementing the series-long arcs that the previous showrunners did. It didn't work. I was originally going to try and talk about Flux and the specials all in this one video, but I think that this is going to be long enough. Plus, if I'm being really honest, I don't particularly want to rewatch Flux to take more notes on it than what I remember, so there's that. As I mentioned earlier, like a lot of people, I have a number of issues with the show, like the bland music, the bland cinematography, the bad casting decisions, you know, the bad stories, the bad writing, just everything pretty much. But I think a lot of the problems with the Chibnall era of the show can be boiled down to one single thing. There's too much going on. Now, like I said earlier, I was considering looking at the Flux and all of the specials in one go, but instead I am just going to look at Chibnall's final episode, The Power of the Doctor. The Regeneration episode. You know, the big send-off. It should be good, right? Wrong. So wrong. Everything wrong with Chibnall's final episode, I think, can be applied to his era as a whole. You know, sometimes to a lesser extent, episode to episode, but definitely a very prominent issue all through Flux. I'm going to do my best not to nitpick. There is one part later on I do have issue with, and I will go through that then, but without further ado, let's get into the episode. I am going to assume that you have watched the episode before clicking on this video. If you haven't, obviously spoilers, and spoilers for the show as a whole, I think, as well. I can't remember what I'm going to say, but probably spoilers for the show as a whole. And yeah, probably watch it before watching this, but hopefully I've done a good enough job of writing this that it makes sense even if you haven't seen it. This episode is almost 90 minutes long, and as the title of this video suggests, there's just a needless amount of crap crammed into it. In the first 20 minutes, I count setups for 17 different plot lines. 17 different plot lines. That's an average of one new plot line every minute and 10 seconds. What? To try and make this a little bit easier to understand, especially for me while I was writing this, I've made this handy dandy little clock looking thing. There is like a reason behind it, and you should look into it if filmmaking is your thing, but most of all, it's just easier than looking at a straight timeline. I've set up this clock so that each of the little grey lines around it represent 30 seconds of screen time. And here is every single plot point in the episode. Color-coded, just to make it a little bit easier. I really wanted to do like a really nice animated reveal for this, but like, it didn't hit as hard as just having everything pop up on screen at once. So I hope you felt that. Just by the by, I am referring to a plot point as every single time the audience / characters learn a new piece of information relating to what's going on in the stories, okay? So don't be mad at me, please. I want to represent what's going on. Look at how condensed some of these plot points are. Like, it's ridiculous. And the big takeaway that I got while I was doing this up is just how much more breathing room there is during the second half of the episode compared to the first. Now, let's look at some of the setups and plot lines in the first quarter of the episode, and I am gonna need my phone for this because I can't remember all of them. Okay, here we go. Space, cargo train, people in trouble. Cybermen arrive and then die. That all happens in the span of 1 minute. Okay? The Cybermen are then revealed to be the regenerating Cybermen from Series 12. The Doctor arrives, there's a bit of an action scene, they tell some terrible jokes. Dan gets shot in the face but lives. Turns out the train is carrying cargo. The cargo is a child. The Cybermen escape with it. The intro rolls, and immediately afterwards we are thrown into Siberia, 1916, where some stranger requests the help of some other mysterious stranger. Now we're in London in 2022. We meet Ace and find out that some paintings are missing. Then we meet Tegan, who's been looking for some missing seismologists and received a Russian doll gift from the Doctor. From Siberia to now, it's been 1:30. Okay, I know I keep harping on about this, but I'm just trying to get through at how much stuff is thrown at the viewer in such a short span of time. The Doctor and co then arrive in London and Dan decides to leave. Now look at the breathing room this scene gets. 2 minutes. 2 minutes of screen time. In the previous 2 scenes we learned so much, and this scene just gets to breathe. It's really, really nice. Straight back into it. A Dalek sends a transmission to the TARDIS, warns the Doctor of an impending invasion, and then 20 seconds later the Doctor is just back on the trail of the cargo, which is in 1916 along with an extra planet next to Earth. Okay, now we go back to 1916, but we're in St. Petersburg. It turns out the Master was the mysterious figure, and he's also posing as Rasputin. He appears to be able to hypnotize these people with his really messed up eyes. Transition back over to the extra planet. The Doctor arrives and finds another TARDIS just like hers. Upon entering, they find that the TARDIS has been modified. After exiting the modified TARDIS, the Doctor and Yaz see a child. Turns out the child is the energy source with a disguise on. Cybermen interrupt and reveal the planet is actually a cyber conversion planet. The heroes escape and immediately receive a transmission from Kate at Unit HQ. The Doctor then arrives at Unit HQ. Ace and Tegan reunite with the Doctor after 40 years. Tegan brings up some abandonment issues, and it's hinted that Yaz is worried about being left behind. God damn, dude. Now, I know that everything I just rambled through is spread out over 20 minutes, but with all of the fast-paced talking and exposition and quick cuts and scene changes, it honestly felt like it was happening at the same pace that I just explained it to you. But there is a solution, and it's actually really easy. Cut some of this shit out of the episode. You don't need it. But Shady, everything's integral to the plot. You can't just get rid of it. Oh, can't I? Let's have a look at each different plot device on the clock. This is everything that the Cybermen do. Are they important? Well, yeah. They were created by the Master, and there's a relationship there. There's a reason that they're in the episode. Easy, cool, simple. Now, what about the Daleks? Pretty fucking empty, hey? The first chunk of the Daleks is dedicated to this traitor Dalek that's gonna sell them out and help the Doctor defeat them once and for all. It's revealed that the Daleks have a huge drill inside a volcano, and then they kidnap the Doctor, and then nothing. Look at this gap! Look at this 22-minute gap where they do nothing! What is the point of them being here? Ooh, there's not one. Then, towards the end of the episode, they start a volcanic eruption, but then they're then defeated and we don't see them again. Could The Cybermen have done everything that the Daleks do here. Yes. But the Cybermen also have a conversion planet that could probably kill everyone a few different ways. So by extent, this whole volcano plotline element also doesn't need to be here. But then without volcanoes, we also don't need any reference to seismologists. So let's just take these plot points and just yeet them into oblivion. So we've done a little bit, but we can do more. This clone of Ashad, whose only purpose was to free the Master, even though any Cyberman could have done that, gone. Vinder does nothing except show up, point a gun, and then leave. He doesn't need to be here. Graham just happens to be in a volcano at the end of the episode, and he meets Ace. What's the point? This scene where they're introduced to a mystery figure of importance? Let's get rid of that. There are 3 different versions of the Master in this episode. You have Weird Eye's Rasputin Master, you have the normal Master, and he just shows up to taunt the old companions and tease the Doctor's death. And then you have the Master Doctor, which is where the Master literally just takes over the Doctor's body, and that's it. So Original Master only exists in this 13-minute chunk. I guess it's sort of cool and timey-wimey to think that he would have gone from here, escaped, become Rasputin, grown a cool beard, put in weird contacts, and then continued his plan. But less is more, is all I really need to say, I think. The biggest issue I have with this episode is that I just don't understand the Master's plan. I've watched the episode 3 times, and I've read the script. He briefly mentions that he wants to wipe the Doctor out of existence, but then he just forces the Doctor to regenerate into him. And I was thinking, like, cool, this is going to be some multiple Master scenario, like the end of time, or he's going to do something really weird that's going to corrupt the Doctor's mind and make her think like he does. But no, the Doctor literally just regenerates into the Master, and the Master's old body just sits there dead. And then it seems like the plan all along was to tarnish the Doctor's name. There's this really hilariously dumb part where the Master addresses just a random TV news camera that flies up to a moon near 2 planets at war, and he says, I'm the Doctor and I did this.
Oh, hello. I have a message for all your remaining news viewers. I am the Doctor, and I caused this.
But like, he could have just told people that he was the Doctor without doing any of this, right? Like, she is a Time Lord that changes her face. No one knows how many faces she's had, but it's been a lot. Really, the only identifiable marker of the Doctor is the police telephone box, which the Master has. So, if the Master really just wanted to play dress up and pretend to be the Doctor, it could have just put on some clothes and just told people he was. Like, no one would have been the wiser. Like, I don't get it. It makes no sense to me. The other thing I wanted to talk about, and it's not really an issue that I have, like the Master's plan, it's that I feel like Ace and Tegan just did not get enough screen time to develop their characters. My initial reaction to Ace and Tegan being in the episode was, why are they here? Like, they have almost nothing to do. With that being said, I really did like the scenes where they reconciled with their Doctor. I thought that was really touching and heartwarming. I liked that. I don't know what to tell you, I liked that. The episode just moves so fast that I don't feel the pain of them being left behind by the Doctor like the episode wants us to. I also really don't understand why Tegan is so salty about being abandoned, because it was her choice to leave.
I'm not coming with you.
I beg your pardon?
I'm tired of it.
What's the matter?
A lot of good people have died today. I'm sick of it.
You think I wanted it this way?
No. It's just that I don't think I can go on.
Tegan.
It stopped being fun, Doctor. Bye. Miss you both.
No, don't leave. Not like this.
I must, I'm sorry. Bye.
She was so done and over all of the death and destruction that revolved around traveling with the Doctor, but here she's just holding a grudge.
How have you been?
Like you care.
Tegan, we discussed this.
38 years.
When I saw that Ace and Tegan were in this episode, I thought back to School Reunion, because I actually think that that's a really good way to reintroduce a character from the classic era. There was a lot more somber moments between just Sarah and the Doctor, where the episode fleshed out her feelings after being left behind, went into some events that happened since and how she felt about everything. And then there was just as much time between Sarah and Rose as there was between Sarah and the Doctor. Everything was just rounded out like really nicely. You really got a sense of who she was and who she is without needing any prior knowledge. I am really lucky that I know who Ace and Tegan are, because if I had come into this as a new viewer, I would just be really confused. The School Reunion episode also fleshed out the reintroduction and development of Sarah as a character over a whole 45-minute episode. And in that episode, when Rose discovered that the Doctor just moves on from his companions, she reacted like this.
How many of us have there been travelling with you?
Does it matter?
Yeah, it does, if I'm just the latest in a long line.
As opposed to what?
I thought you and me were... I obviously got it wrong. I've been to the year 5 billion, right? But this... Now, this is really seeing the future. You just leave us behind. Is that what you're going to do to me?
No, not to you.
But Sarah Jane, you were that close to her once, and now... You never even mention her.
Yaz was literally like, oh yeah, okay.
It used to be you decades back.
I see. Wow.
Another great character reintroduction was when Handsome Jack... Wait, that's not right. Another great character introduction was when I always said it again. Another great character reintroduction was when Captain Jack came back at the end of season 3. Jack has issues about literally being abandoned in the year 200-100, and this episode gives he and the Doctor time to talk about this.
I got the message. I'm the man who can never die. And all that time you knew.
That's why I left you behind. It's not easy, even just looking at you, Jack, because you're wrong.
Thanks.
Do you want to die?
Oh, this one's a little stuck.
Jack.
I thought I did. I don't know.
Yeah, that scene between Jack and the Doctor was only 3.5 minutes, but it was a very, very necessary scene. Even Sarah Jane got 21 minutes of screen time out of a 45-minute episode. Like, there's so much time to flesh out these characters. Do you want to guess how much screen time Ace and Tegan got combined? 18.5 minutes. Two returning classic era companions had less combined screen time in this episode than one classic returning character in their own episode. Did you see what I mean? Do you see what I'm getting at? If you can't take the time to flesh out these people and what they're doing here, don't put them in the episode. Yeah, I know each of them technically got a good one-on-one with the Doctor at the end, but it just felt like too little, too late. When you write something with so much crammed into it like this, it comes at a cost, both a literal and a figurative cost. I couldn't find anything relating specifically to the budget of this episode, but I did find an article that suggested the average episode budget for Doctor Who is £1 to £3 million. Each shot requires a set to be built, either digitally or physically. Then you've got your director on set, your actors on set, rehearsal time, sound recorders, cinematographer, focus pull, And then in post for each shot, you've got the Foley artist, the CGI team, the editor. You know, that's just everything that I can sort of list off the top of my head. But that's how much goes into each shot, more or less. Like, there's so many people involved. And people cost money. So when you need everyone that I just mentioned, and probably more, to film a pointlessly short shot, it's just a waste of everyone's time and a very huge, needless waste of money. The Daleks, for example, have an actor inside, a remote control operator for the head and lights, and they are then voiced by Nicholas Briggs. So that is at least 3 people on set per Dalek. So having no Daleks equals money saved. Especially when what the Daleks do can easily be done by one of your other 2 enemies, which, like I said earlier, it can be. You always need to write within your limitations, and a big part of that comes down to how much stuff costs. I was once working on a short film with a friend. They wanted a scene filmed in air ducts, and it's just like, how are you going to do that? Do we have money to build air ducts? No. Is there any way that we can get into the air ducts for this scene? No. So, as cool as that scene sounds, can we do it? Probably not. So let's not write it into the script. That's as simple as it gets. You'd think that the showrunner, when writing the script, should know how much each element is going to cost and have that in the back of their mind when they write the script. You have £3 million, how far does that go? Do you stretch the budget and reduce the cost of everything else to save money to have more? Or do you work with less and use the money to make the less better? The other cost I wanted to mention is how a long, arduous script can take a toll on everyone involved in production. This script is 105 pages long, with scenes already chopped out. And the final episode is just under 90 minutes. The general rule of thumb with scripts is that 1 page equals about 1 minute of screen time. It doesn't always work out like that, but it's what everyone preaches. So somewhere along the line, there are 15 minutes of film, of episode, that have been trickled down to fit into 90 minutes of screen time. Because like I said, certain scenes were already scrapped from the script. To condense an approximately 105-minute story into a 90-minute end product, the director would have likely had to tell the actors to speak a little bit faster. He would have had to make the shots move a little bit quicker. He likely would have cut out some reaction shots or shots that would have helped tell the story a little bit more effectively. Then in the editing suite, the editor would not have been able to hold on shots for as long as they wanted. I think one of the biggest things that I noticed when watching this and rewatching this is that shots barely hold for as long as they feel that they should. The cuts are just made so quickly. And then the other thing was that there seems to be a large amount of reaction shots from actors missing. Like, there's a couple of scenes that I can think of where you're like, this has just happened. There should be a shot of the actor going, oh, well, there's not. There is a rule in film called KISS. It stands for keep it simple, stupid. And yeah, it's real. Had Chris Chibnall been able to write a more simple story, the episode would have been far better. This even extends right back to the start of his era when he gave the Doctor 3 companions. None of them are really developed, none of them get a lot of screen time, and it just feels like they all take turns saying, "What's the matter, Doctor?" or "What's that, Doctor?" Like, it just, again, there's too much going on. Yaz is the only companion that travels with this Doctor for her entire tenure. In the second last episode of The Flux, Chris Chibnall just decides that Yaz and the Doctor are in love with each other, and it just came out of nowhere, and it feels really, really forced and really stupid. Had Yaz been the only companion, or one of 2 companions, there would have been just that much more time to flesh out her character and actually build a relationship between Yaz and the Doctor. Again, keeping something simple, applying the rule less is more, can make something a lot better. The base elements of this episode I actually think are quite good. It's a really good starting point, it just got too big. So I want to have a go at restructuring it myself. The first thing that I looked at is act structure. There are traditionally two types of act structure. One is 3-act structure, which is traditionally used for films, and then there is 5-act structure, which is typically used for television shows. Since this is a movie-length episode, I'm going to use 3-act structure. That's what makes sense to me. Deal with it. Okay, so the opening shot is good. Let's leave that in. It starts at space, the train sweeps past, it's under attack. It's being shot at by a large warship, and it sort of looks familiar. Cut to the head guard making an emergency call. The call is intercut with shots of the roof being cut open. The head guard commands her soldiers to their stations in between calls for help. A chunk of roof falls to the floor. The carriage is filled with smoke. No one can see. Clunk, clunk, clunk. Something heavy is hitting the floor. The smoke clears. Cybermen. Both sides size each other up. There are more soldiers than Cybermen. In a panic, the soldiers engage first. Open fire. Lasers in both directions. Soldiers fall quickly, but they manage to get in some lucky shots, eliminating the few Cybermen. The battle is won. There's barely any soldiers left. The head guard scans the train, seeing all of her fallen comrades. Shaky, she says, check the cargo. I won't go into this much detail for the whole thing, I promise. What I've tried to do is just give the scene a little bit more breathing room. I really wanted to establish the stress of the attack on the guards and give the Cybermen back some of that intimidation instead of just entering and dying within 15 seconds. That's how long it takes in the original episode. They enter and die within 15 seconds. It's not very scary. I also really wanted to establish the cargo a little bit earlier, letting us know that there's something a little bit more genuine at stake than just the Cybermen attacking a train. The rest of the opening I think is pretty good. Dan still gets shot, the cargo is still revealed to be a child, and then the Cybermen escape. That's the inciting incident. Done. Roll into the credits. Good stuff. Great open. Straight after the credits, we meet Ace and Tegan, and I think that we should focus a little bit more on the paintings. I'd like to see Ace question the clerk with a little bit more harder hitting questions, and I think it'd be really cool if she said something that only the Doctor would say. Because you've got to establish these characters like they were new. Sarah Jane was treated like a new character, and it should be the same here. It's been 30 years since Ace was on the show. It's been almost 40 years since Tegan was on the show. I know who they are. Newer audiences probably don't. So you need to build the connection and treat them as they were new. By having Ace say something that only the Doctor would say, it gives the audience a little hint. It's like, I know that the Doctor would say that. That's really weird. Like, maybe there's something more to this character than just being another person, you know? That's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm picturing. It's difficult to do, but you can pull it off. Tegan then calls and interrupts Ace. We see Tegan is somewhere else out of the norm, maybe at another art gallery. She acknowledges the importance of the paintings, but she's more stressed about this weird gift that she received from the Doctor. The Doctor then lands in London 2022. Dan says his goodbyes. The Doctor isn't happy, but she's out there trying her best to wish Dan a goodbye with Yaz. Dan walks off. The Doctor and Yaz turn to go back to the TARDIS, and then they see an extra planet in the sky. Just as they see the extra planet, Kate from Unit calls. She's seen it too, and she needs the Doctor's help to try and work out how to deal with this. The Doctor jets straight to the mysterious planet, and she looks around, studies the ground. It's metal. In the distance, a soft metallic clunking, rhythmic. Over the hill, we see a cyber army marching, getting ready for battle. The child appears in front of the Doctor. The child then zaps into the distance, and then again further away, almost as if she's leading them somewhere. The Doctor and Yaz follow. They are led to another TARDIS. Inside, it's been modified, and at the center, the power source. The child hologram was a clever disguise to get help. A Cyberman left to guard the inside of the TARDIS interrupts, and the Doctor and Yaz both escape. At Unit HQ, Kate discusses options regarding the planet with the Doctor. On the way to Kate's office, she reintroduces the Doctor to Ace and Tegan. I imagine that they're researching their own thing, and it's actually not connected at this stage. I think the conversation overall that they had in the original script is pretty good. You can just take a little bit of extra time and just flesh it out a little bit. Upon hearing what Tegan and Ace have to say, Yaz is concerned about being left behind. Her and the doctor step aside to talk. After chatting for a little bit, the doctor then notices the paintings behind them. Ace, what's that? Oh, just some paintings that have been vandalized with the face of Rasputin. But that's not Rasputin. That's the Master. And then everyone's like, what? No. Then the Master calls and boom. That's your Act 1 climax. We're done. Act 1 is done. It's good. It's good stuff. See where I'm going. Less is more. That's what I'm trying to convey. I don't know. I'm just going to keep rambling on. I left this next chunk mostly the same. They go and arrest the Master. Yaz gets a gun. They go back to unit. Then I want the Doctor and Yaz to have a little bit more of a conversation. But unlike their first conversation about the Doctor having secrets, this one gets really heated between the two and ends with the Doctor storming off to go down to the bunker to talk with the Master one-on-one. The companions all watch the Doctor and Master talking on the monitor. The Master knows that they're watching, but still speaking to the Doctor, he taunts them, even bringing up how Tegan would keep anything from the Doctor close. We see a shot of the Russian doll, now upright on the floor, unnoticed by the companions. Now the Master just goes off on a tangent, saying to the Doctor, did you know that tissue compression can be reversed? The Cybermen enter as before. Yaz runs to the Doctor while Kate, Ace and Tegan take up arms. The Cybermen take over unit. Just a side note, this scene is so much better if you use Murray Gold's original score over the Cybermen entering. It's just mwah.
That ain't just any Cyberman. It's a Russian
The companions open fire, the Cybermen storm the basement, the Doctor and Yaz surrender. Cyberman breaks the Master out of his cell. The Doctor and Yaz follow the Master upstairs to the TARDIS, escorted by a group of Cybermen. They all enter. The Master hangs back out the door a moment. Do what you want with the planet. I've got what I want. The TARDIS dematerializes. The Cyber leader orders troops to begin the invasion. Now, we're at the Master's super cool hideout base location. Do we need to know how he got it? No, he's the Master. Here he taunts the Doctor about her death and wiping her from existence. So what I'm thinking is that the Master has used all of his regenerations and wants to steal the Doctor's regeneration energy. It was a plot point back in the 1981 Tom Baker episode, The Keeper of Traken, and to me it makes a lot more sense that it's reintroduced here. I know it was stated in the season 12 finale that the Master really hates knowing that a part of the Doctor is in his DNA, but I'd like to think that his desire to keep on living and causing havoc trumps that hatred. I really wanted to ramp things up a little bit here, so I chose to cut away from the Master's speech and back to unit with their other three companions. Back to Kate, Ace and Tegan. The gunfire stops. Beat. The Cybermen are unaffected. They're resistant to gold now. The companions escape to Kate's office, where Ace has some of her stuff stowed away, and Kate is going to lock down unit. It is really important here that we establish that Ace's baseball bat has been modified and can do some serious damage. I knew what was going on when she brought it out because I watched the 1988 episode that it was introduced in, but no one new is going to know what it does. And the only thing that she actually does with it is hit a Dalek right at the end and it just explodes and everyone's just like, if I was new, I'd just be like, what? It could be her doing something, it could be her hitting a Cyberman, it could just be a throwaway line like, oh yeah, the Doctor souped this back up 30 years ago. Like, it just has to be something to plant a seed in the audience's mind to know that it's a special baseball bat and she's not just going to try and hit giant metal monsters that are immortal with it. Ace and Tegan head up to the roof where they're going to jump off, but Tegan decides to stay. Cut back to the Doctor. The Master does his victory dance. At first I thought that this was really dumb. But it's grown on me, so shut up. We get some good reaction shots from Yaz and the Cybermen. The Master then regenerates into the Master Doctor. A Time Lord's never tried to steal regeneration energy from another Time Lord. They always get it from an outside source. So in my mind, the Master attempts to steal the regeneration energy using stolen technology that he doesn't really know much about, and it goes wrong. The result of it going wrong is that he is now in the Doctor's body and his old body's just sitting there. To me, that makes the most sense. I hope it makes sense to you too. The Master then states that he can't regenerate back, and God, I love this moment between he and Yaz. It's just such a powerful moment for him as a character. I love it. It's so good.
I think I am gonna let you. I am the Doctor now! I am the Doctor!
Back at UNIT, we see that the Cybermen have turned UNIT into a conversion hub and are using UNIT soldiers to beef up their army. To do this, they've broken through a few of the lockdown barriers. Kate notices and reasons the best action is to blow up UNIT HQ. Cut to Ace, still on the roof, hesitant to jump. Cybermen burst through the lockdown barrier and take aim. With no other option, she jumps. Cut to a new location, two factions in the middle of war. The Master Doctor arrives heroic, mirroring the Doctor's own intro at the start of this episode, even introducing himself as the Doctor. I didn't think too far into the specifics of this chunk, I just want the Master to be his usual, chaotic self. The Master acts genuinely helpful after arriving, but we cut away just as he hints that he's up to something sinister. Back on Kate, she's going to distract the Cybermen while Tegan gets to the basement to find the override switch. Back to the Master, he's now in full chaos mode. He makes things worse between the fighting armies that will ultimately end them both. I would really love to see him do something really brutal, like something really full on that we just haven't seen the Master do before, just to get a proper sense of what an untamed Master is capable of. Yaz is terrified at the Master's actions. She still has the gun from earlier and she pulls it on him. The Master gives a speech about damaging the Doctor's body and threatens Yaz's family. She hands over the gun. As he turns away to finish acting out his plan, Yaz runs to the TARDIS and abandons him. In the TARDIS, the Doctor's hologram appears to help her. The Spark setup pays off here, and the plan to try and reverse the regeneration is put into action. And it's now that we find that the Doctor is still alive. The same scene in her subconscious plays out. The only thing I'd change in here is to add a few of the modern Doctors. A, because they helped revitalize the show and get it to where it is now, as well as the other classic Doctors that we see. But also, I'd love to see David Tennant, because then that would plant the seed in everyone's mind of him coming back at the end of the episode, as he does. Cut back to UNIT. Ace lands. It's rough and she's a bit disorientated. She glances around, trying to think of a plan to help from the outside. Kate meets with the Cybermen and is ultimately taken for conversion. Tegan reconciles with the 5th Doctor on her way to the basement. Yaz arrives outside in the TARDIS and requests Ace's help. Here, Ace reconciles with the 7th Doctor. Yaz then picks up the Master Doctor. Ace hides in the TARDIS with her baseball bat. Kate gets put in line for conversion and is forced to watch her staff die. The TARDIS materializes back in the Master's lair. His corpse is still in the chamber. Yaz confronts the Master and now he pulls the gun on her. Ace then leaps out of the TARDIS and knocks the gun out of his hand. It slides across the floor. He's injured and mad. The Cybermen take aim at the two companions. Enter the Doctor's hologram. Again, I'd really love to see the 10th Doctor hinting at that upcoming regeneration, or even another incarnation that had a big impact on the Master's life. It could be any of them. The 10th Doctor had a very big impact on the Master's life. The 12th Doctor had a very big impact on Missy's life. The 7th Doctor had a very big impact on the Master's life. Like, there is a lot of connections. It doesn't make sense to me that it's the Ruth Doctor because the hologram interface changes depending on who's talking to it and becomes sort of personalized. So the Master seeing the Ruth Doctor is just weird because he doesn't know who that is. The Master's confused. There's a small moment between the two Time Lords. The Cybermen shoot down the Doctor, but they themselves collapse. And then the episode plays out pretty much the same from here. The Doctor regenerates back into 13, Kate starts the conversion process, Tegan saves Kate, they all enter the TARDIS and end up on the cyber planet. The Doctor uses both her TARDIS and the Master's TARDIS to move the cyber planet away from Earth, and then she sets the power source free, asking it to destroy the planet. The one thing that I'm going to change here is instead of the Master using the power source to kill the Doctor, I really want him to shoot the Doctor with the gun that he took from Yaz. I just think that rounds everything off really nicely because it was the Doctor initially that commanded that Yaz have a gun. Yaz couldn't shoot the Master when he brought up that it was actually the Doctor's body. and then he took the gun from her. It just sort of, in my mind, it rounds everything out quite nicely. Of course, in the original script, the gun is set up here, and then we never see it again. It's like the opposite of Chekhov's gun. Yaz drops everyone home, and then her and the Doctor have a nice moment as they eat ice cream and say their goodbyes. Then there's the Doctor Who fan club scene where all of the Doctor's companions meet and discuss their adventures as the Doctor regenerates back into David Tennant. So there you go. That's my version of the episode. Please let me know how you think I did. I just really wanted to get across the point that less can be more. And the episode that Chris Chibnall wrote initially has some really good points and really good elements, and it's not bad. It just got really overcrowded. Is my version of the episode perfect? No. No, definitely not. Are there plot holes? Yes. Could I have thought about it and fixed it? Yes. But I put that together in one afternoon. Also, I'm not the showrunner for one of television's longest running sci-fi series. But yeah, that's me done for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope some of my criticisms made a little bit more sense. Like I said, I didn't just want to nitpick at everything like a lot of people on the internet do. So I hope I've dodged that successfully and made some decent points. I have a few more videos planned, sort of similar to this one, but sort of different at the same time. We'll see how we're going. I'm doing a lot of thinking about where my channels are at the moment. Let me know how I did in the comments. If you liked the video, please drop a like. If you made it this far, thank you so much. My name's Shady, and I will see you some other time. Thanks for watching.